Anyone who has spent time in Kathmandu will tell you it's quite an experience. It was a bit of a culture shock to start with, but I totally loved it. I'd come to Nepal for the trekking, but exploring Kathmandu was definitely a bonus. There was a lot to see, and you never knew what was round the corner. Everything from funeral pyres burning on the ghats to visiting one of the many monasteries and watching the Buddhists in prayer. Or just seeing the local people go about their day. I'm glad I had a couple of days to see all the major sites. And there was always a bargain to be had. Riding on the back of a motorbike in Kathmandu is not recommended. Last night before our trek we went to one of the local restaurants and ended up being entertained by the waiters, which explains a lot about the lovely Nepalese people. I'm not sure what that was, but I know I had a lot of it. The first day of our trek, I was feeling really nervous, yet for someone who had never done any trekking before, I couldn't wait to get going. We took a short 40-minute plane ride to Lukla, where we would start our trek to Everest base camp. As soon as we hit the sky, the views were incredible. I'd heard some very scary stories about the landing at Lukla airport. The runway was built by Sir Edmund Hillary and the Sherpas in the 60s. It's only 350 metres long and rises on an angle of about 10 degrees, so it slows the planes down on landing. If we miss it, there's a cliff and a 600-metre drop to the valley below. Here we go! Now that was cool. Lukla is at 2,800 metres. It all starts and ends here for everything. It would take us 10 days to get to Everest base camp, and almost immediately we were trekking. The 7 of us were lucky that all we had to carry was our backpack with what we needed for that day. The rest of our stuff was carried by 4 porters who were carrying like 10 tons each. I don't know how they did it. I knew I should have left that anvil behind. The trail was busy with porters carrying essential supplies to all the little villages along the way. Our guides made sure we stopped for breaks regularly. I got hooked on lemon tea. We were spoilt for views almost immediately.
Okay, zoom zoom.
Which meant it was time to go. That's Alan. He and his friend Neil had been planning this trip for about 2 years. I think we're all feeling a little nervous about what may lie ahead. We paid a visit to one of the many Buddhist monasteries. We were told to turn all the prayer wheels for good luck. They came in all sizes, but remember, always turn them clockwise. I wasn't game to find out what happens if you turn them the other way. Day 2 and the trail was still busy and got a little congested at times. Many of the buildings were architecturally brilliant, with all the bricks chipped by hand. The accommodation was simple, yet very homely. There was plenty of time to stop and relax along the way. We were encouraged to take it at our own pace, which suited me fine. The scenery and landscape was forever changing. I didn't want to miss a thing. That day we climbed 600 metres to Namche Bazaar and were at 3,400. We were greeted with what appeared to be now a normal everyday thing, with locals celebrating the current festival. There seemed to be a new one every week, but it was beautiful to watch. In the afternoon we took a climb up to the Everest View Hotel, and aptly named. This was the best views we'd seen so far of Everest and surrounding peaks. And the group were certainly looking a lot more relaxed. It was a long day though. We must have gotten a good 6 hours walking. I wasn't looking forward to tomorrow. Incredibly, the next morning all the rain had gone and we were off again. The air was now noticeably getting thinner, which meant the walking was getting tougher. We arrived at Tangbashay at 3,800 metres after a long 6-hour walk. I headed straight for the lodge for a hot cup of lemon tea. Tangbashay is like the Buddhist spiritual centre of the region, and you could really feel it. Next morning we were off to get a final blessing from the local Buddhist bishop for the rest of our trip. None of us had slept well the last few nights because of the altitude and the excitement of it all. It was only 4 days to go to Everest Base Camp, and we all knew that we were about to step it up a gear.